Good evening, folks. Welcome to another Monday night live stream. I hope you're all well. Hope you had a fab weekend, and I hope that your week is off to a beautiful start. How the devil is everybody? What have you been up to? Tell me what you're doing tonight. Let me know what's on your agenda this evening. Who's doing a bit of hobby? Who's sitting with their feet up relaxing? Who's come ready for a bit of chit chat? So hello, folks. Let's have a look in the chat. See which of you fine folks we've got going here. Super Punker Man was in, nice and sharp. Good afternoon, he says. Or he said good morning, actually, earlier on. I would imagine it'd be good afternoon now. RG, nice to see you as well, mate. I'll come on to this in a little bit. I was at Mantic's Open Day at the weekend, and I met RG face to face. Now, it wasn't for the first time I've met him, but it was the first time I realised who RG was. So, hello, mate. Nice to see you again. Blair, nice to see you as well. Hope you're well. Type 40 TARDIS, good evening. Peter Kuhlman, good evening to you as well, fella. Nosef1234, good evening to all, he says. Good evening to you as well. Blizzard says, here, hi diddly ho, you party animals. Party animals. I think that's being a bit kind of it, to be fair. Kermit, good evening to you. Steve Evans, good evening, sir. Deep Red says, hail and well, mate. I hope everyone is well. I'm very well, mate. I hope you are too. Matt, good evening to you as well. Colin Mack, good evening, sir. Marshall Doug, hello, sir. How the devil are you? RG says he's having fun just sorting out a failed print for the first time in 2 months. But every time it happens, doesn't it feel like, oh, not again. Nice crunch followed by the print half hanging off the plate. Just running a test print after some recalibrations. It's always a scary moment, mate. Haxan, good evening to you, man. How are you doing? Big Dave as well. Nice to see you as well. I met you at the weekend as well, sir. Very nice to meet you too. Tasty Brain Drain saying, hey, everyone. Made it with just a few minutes to spare. I completely lost track of time. How, you mean you haven't got an alarm set? You haven't got a Monday night alarm? I can't believe that for a second. Dwarven Darkness says, howdy to you as well, Dwarven Darkness. RG said it's looking good, the print now, just getting the terrain out to continue the mammoth painting task. And it is a mammoth painting task, mate, doing all that terrain. Nosef says, I'm on 1 week paid vacation from work, so he's resting, painting an unfinished project or two is on the way. You know what, mate? I can't remember the last time I picked up a brush, and it's not for the want of trying. I've had a bit of like a proper, like, full-on stacked few weeks. I feel like I've not had 2 minutes to myself, to be honest. So yeah, painting's been on the back burner. I've got some beautiful Metsu models that are sitting there all primed, waiting for me to start painting them. I've got the stuff ready for the spray can stuff that I got sent to try out as well. They're just sitting there waiting to get done. It's been a bit hectic. But yes, I'm glad you're picking up the paintbrush, mate. Clyde saying, I'm here to be inspired into starting a halfling army. Well, I know we put Kings of War, there was a halfling army in the thumbnail there as well. And potentially, not potentially, sorry. Part of the reason I'm talking about being inspired is because it was quite nice being surrounded by people at the weekend, all talking hobby stuff, which is inspiring in itself. So we'll come on to the main topic a little bit later on. But yeah, when we get onto it, you can tell me what inspires you. Tell me why you need inspiring. What, like, do you feel like you get a lull in your mojo when it comes to your hobby? Is it in painting? Is it in gaming? Do you kind of get a little bit exhausted of kind of absorbing the lore of the game that you love? Do you get a bit burnt out by the tournament season kind of thing? We'll come on to all that later on. Major Tom, good evening to you, sir. How you doing, Ed? Bobby Clark, good evening as well, mate. Another fine gentleman who I met over the weekend as well, and was very nice to share a bite to eat and some food with. And also he's good lady sent some brownies my way as well, and I have to say they're probably the nicest brownies I've ever eaten. Zingbo said, it's 9 o'clock already. Blimey, good evening. It is, mate, it is. Joey C says, evening all. Anyone painted anything red yet? I haven't had a chance. We'll soon see, won't we? VGA, good morning to you, buddy. How you doing? Welcome to the chat, mate. Where are we up to here? Well, I just jumped massively ahead there. Let me scroll back a little bit. There we go. John Chapman says, hi everyone, hope you're doing well. And Steve Evans saying says Clyde go start a halfling army. Peter Koeman, he said he's painting some bolt action Russians tonight. Very nice. D. Anthony Robinson says, hi all as well. Hello fella, how you doing? Doug said he's finishing up work. He's got some Retributors painted over the weekend though. That can't be bad, mate. He's getting a bit of hobbying over the weekend. Very nice. Mark Zielinski, hello mate. He says he's still at work. Well, I hope I'm not distracting you too much, mate, but thank you for joining us. John said he's sitting scanning a cowboy supper. Scanning a cowboy. I think you mean scranning a cowboy supper. VG says he's just finished watching the Mantic Fantasy update while I was on the treadmill this morning. Nice one, mate. And Wayne Hayward says, evening everyone, painting Legion Snowtroopers and Shatterpoint battle droids tonight. Very nice. And VG says it's great to hear Mantic Points are getting a refresh. Will be nice to know why we are collecting them. They are a byproduct of all the wonderful things that you buy, mate. That's what it is. Tizzy Brain Drain says, I'm still working, but hopefully I'll be getting off a little early, and after that I'll be working on my submission for this month's painting challenge. Nice one, fella. VG says, by the way, did you only take one lapel mic with you to the open day? I didn't, mate. As you'll see in the video, we both had a lapel mic on, but in Ronnie's video, randomly, my microphone decided to turn itself off. So what ended up happening was all of the audio of me was coming through Ronnie's mic, which I managed to kind of sort of adjust the audio and make the best of a bad situation. So it wasn't a complete disaster or anything, but it meant whenever I sort of faced away from Ronnie, you got the echo of the room, and when I turned back to him, his lapel mic sort of picked up my my audio a bit better. Thankfully, it was mine, and when you're talking to Ronnie, you don't do much talking, he does most of it, so it wasn't the end of the world. And I try to repair the audio the best I could. But yeah, the other interviews I did are all working fine. There's a little switch on the lapel mic, and I think when I've put it into my pocket, it's pulled the switch and it's turned the microphone off. So at least it's something to be aware of for the future. But yeah, luckily it didn't ruin the video. Super Pumpkin Man says, afternoon, everybody's nearly finished. Afternoon everybody, nearly finished my painting submission, but messed up the face and had to strip the head. You don't strip it, mate, you just paint over the top, mate, just keep going with it. Joey says I literally do have a Monday night alarm. So do I, mate, to be fair, but for different reasons. Yours is just to come and watch. I have to remember to do this. Blizzard said he's stripping a Space Marine Razorback that didn't turn out well. Just spray over the top, man. just do it again. Tizzy Brain says, I actually don't set a reminder because I usually remember. Usually. Yeah, you know what they say about usually as well, don't you? Andrew Cook, hello mate. He says, strange to see the first player of a GW game in a White Dwarf battle report and not a reviewer YouTube vid. Which game was this, mate? Was it have they had a game of Old World or something, mate, in the video in the White Dwarf? I don't get White Dwarf anymore, so I'm not familiar, mate. Yoakum, good evening to you. How are you doing? Joey C says, my wife just told me opposite was disturbing our daughter a moment ago. Yeah, my little alarm is that the little boy, basically, he gets to watch some kind of like sort of story time or cartoons or something before he goes to sleep. And we turn it off at like 9 o'clock. So that's like, I know I have to go and tell him, turn it off, tuck him in, come in here and start the stream. So that's my little alarm anyway. Joseph Nikolak saying, greetings all, hello to you. Big Dave says, I'm building the Vanguard stuff I got on Saturday. Fantastic minis. There's some lovely minis in that Vanguard range actually, mate. Which ones did you get? Which ones did you pick up? D. Anthony Robinson says, as for getting inspired, I flit between several different games in different genres. Sometimes I get sick of painting fantasy, so I need some sci-fi or something else. I wouldn't necessarily... Is that inspiring or inspiration? Or is that just kind of like a bit of a change of pace to stop you feeling a bit kind of out of sorts, if you like? Like sometimes when it comes to being inspired, I can be inspired from like unusual places. Like it might be like I might see a particular color in something and go, oh, that color combination, if you think together looks awesome, it would really suit these like sci-fi minis I've been meaning to paint. Or I might see like a cartoon or something on TV and think, oh, that's like it's got the same kind of theme as this game that I'm playing at the minute. I could really make like a table for this particular game from that kind of cartoon. That's what I mean by kind of inspiration, I think. Where was that? Luke Pryor, hello sir, how are you doing? Peter Kuman says, also assembled 4 new Imperium magazines earlier. Wow. Do they still release, mate? Or have you just sort of like picked up them recently? I'm not familiar with whether they're still kind of like a current product thing. Clyde says, did anyone else notice that Andy seems to be everywhere on the internet these days? Always watching you, mate. Always watching. I'm there with my eyes open, keeping an eye on everybody. Yeah, VJ says it wasn't that noticeable. Happened to notice it as I was listening more than watching that you were coming through Ronnie's mic. Yeah, that's all it was, mate. Like I say, we had them both rigged up and stuff like that. And also as well, the frustrating thing is like there's a backup system on my microphones. So the wireless microphones with like a transmitter, which we both have, and a receiver, which is basically just kind of like on top of the camera. And then I basically send the signal from the receiver into like a Zoom audio thing, which then captures all of the audio and records it to a memory card. But then as a backup, in case there's any problems, each of the transmitters also record their own audio as well. So if the signal ever drops out or anything goes wrong with the Zoom system, you've got a backup of both audios as well. The problem was when my microphone got turned off, it basically just blocked any signal at all going to the transmitter. So I didn't even have the backup either. So I lost the backup and I didn't have it coming through the main one. And when I realized, when I come to edit the video, it was like, ugh. So I have been learning how to make the best of a bad situation with audio. Matt just screaming legions at me for some reason. I don't know what that one was in relation to. Legion Imperialis. Which one's that, Legion Imperialis? I'm not even that familiar with what the game is, mate, to be fair. The article, yeah. Super Pumpkin Man says, could not paint over the face, the paint got too thick. Sometimes that happens, yeah, to be fair. Or Andrew saying it's the new version of Epic set in the Horus Heresy. Ah, now I know what you mean, mate. It's the Epic 40k game that's just Horus Heresy. I forgot that's what it was called. And Vichi's saying, yeah, good, no, all the other videos came out well. Yeah, the rest of them were absolutely fine, mate. There was no problem. The room that we record in is quite echoey at the best of times. Because there's obviously like a lot of flat walls and things like that, and a lot of boxes just facing you and stuff. So the sound isn't the best in that room, but it's a better room to film in rather than the Mantic cupboard where they sometimes do their videos. So you've basically got to just try and make the best of what situation you've got. Really, it's always the same when you're recording kind of on site somewhere. Or you basically have to package up all your gear and do something remotely rather than filming at home when I've got like soundproofed walls and all that kind of stuff. You've got to just kind of deal with what you get, I suppose. Big Dave says got the starter box and the Basilean booster. Very nice, mate. He said the Dictator is especially nice. The Dictator is a really nice one, yeah. Anthony Robinson saying, yeah, I guess it's more motivation than full inspiration, but I'll take what I can get. Though new games often get my juices going too. Yeah, I get that as well, mate. You do get a bit of a boost from something new and inspiring in and of itself, really, to be fair. John saying, I'm going to be really busy all of November and December. I work at Amazon just outside of Durham. I didn't realise that, mate. He says, 2 months are a really busy time. I bet they are, mate. You're going right through Black Friday deals and straight into Christmas, don't you? He says, we have to work an extra shift a week, so 50-hour weeks for 8 weeks. Wow, mate. I would say just think of the money, but I guess it's probably small comfort when you're working every hour God sends. Peter saying, here in Belgium, the Imperium magazine came a bit later, I think, probably because it's translated. I have a subscription and I'm up to issue 19. Ah, okay, mate. Yeah, I hadn't realised it had come a bit later. I assumed it had launched at the same time, but that would explain it. Clyde said the naughty cupboard where they lock Ronnie when he gives too much. It gives away too much. Yeah, it's I know it doesn't. When Mantic make their videos and you see them in that kind of like little brick wall cupboard type thing, it looks pretty small on camera. In reality, it's even smaller. It's I remember filming a video in there with Ronnie a long time ago, and there was hardly even space to get a couple of chairs in to sit together. They're not blessed with a lot of space for making videos at their place in that terms of it, which is why when I've been down there, I've filmed like in the main shop area, the big store area. The only problem is it's a really echoey building, so everybody walking around up and down corridors and kind of slamming doors and stuff, you hear all that come through, and it's all very kind of it's like on a suspended floor as well, like a sprung floor. So everything's just kind of not the best for audio, that's for sure. Yeah, VG says, we know you're not getting much of a word in when chatting to everybody about what's next for Mantic. Yeah, exactly, mate. And to be, I mean, it would have been a bit of a nightmare if it had been Ronnie's microphone that had gone off. So yeah, at least it was just that way around. Super Punky Man says, nothing makes me annoyed like covering up details on a mini's face. Yeah, I get that, mate, to be fair. Clyde saying it's like the Harry Potter understairs spacious apartment. Yeah, you might have like the odd sock lying around for Dobby the house elf, mate. Andrew Cook says, have you seen Ash Barker's video where he has works of art with sound baffling integrated behind the canvas? Looks like it could be portable to hang on walls. Yeah, I have seen that actually, mate. Yeah, and in my studio here at home as well, I've got soundproofing on the walls, and you use things like curtains just to deaden the sound. Soft furnishings basically are really, really good to kind of to deaden the sound and stop it like vibrating around. You don't want to be kind of just facing onto a flat wall, because if you're facing on anything flat, basically the sound just travels straight back at you. Like the sound wave bounces off it and comes back, and that's what creates that echo. It's like a fraction of a second, but you kind of hear it twice through the audio recording, and that's what creates the sound. You might get a little bit here because I've got a screen here on my laptop, like where I've got everybody's chat and stuff like that. I've got that right in front of us, so some of that might actually bounce back towards this microphone as well. But yeah, when I'm recording in Mantic's, kind of like in the shop in their place, they're not set up for that kind of stuff, and there's nowhere to hang soft furnishings because they're actually like, it's a shop. It's four walls, sort of floor to ceiling with boxes on basically. John says, yeah, I work permanent nights as well, so that makes it even rougher. Oh, I remember working night shifts, mate. I was never ever a fan of working night shifts. VG says, having been in the cupboard with Johnny, I can assure Andy is not exaggerating. Yeah, it is like the smallest cupboard there's ever been, mate. And Peter says, I have my Dark Angel army completely done, the old Marines, so I decided to do the Imperium Primaris Force as Ultramarines to have a bit of a change. I know they're kind of like the poster boys kind of thing, and they get a little bit of flack, but I do quite like the Ultramarines colours, mine, I must admit. Super Punky Man says, I get that. My childhood room was 9.5 feet by 9.5 feet. I think that cupboard that they've got is probably about 7 feet long by about 4 feet wide, maybe 5 feet wide at a push. It ain't the biggest. It ain't the biggest. But you make do with what you've got. That's exactly what you do. This room I'm in here isn't the biggest of rooms. Like, it's the smallest bedroom in our house kind of thing, which is why I use it as kind of like an office, really. And now we've got like sort of bigger bedrooms that we use for like sort of spare bedrooms for if friends or family come and stay or anything. But yeah, this is pretty much the smallest room in the house, but it suits my needs for what I need to do, kind of thing. Cool. So we got a nice little gang in tonight. I am disappointed in the amount of likes that you've dropped, folks. I can see that only 16 likes, and yet we do have 46 people in the chat already. So I'm sure some of you can press that like button a little bit more. Thank you very much. It is appreciated. Peter saying, yeah, the blue is striking. Also, I used to have a couple from 2nd edition and want a nostalgia trip. Yeah, when I first started sort of painting miniatures, I painted Space Marines because that was what I kind of saw in Games Workshop window, and I picked them up. But I think I tried painting like lots of different color schemes just when I was painting for fun. Like, I would paint one Marine one color, I'd paint another Marine another color, till eventually I actually started to get to a point where I thought, you know, I'm painting quite a bit, I should probably try and make an army out of them and maybe play at some point. And at that point I decided to try and do like one of the more simple paint schemes, and that's why my first army was a Raven Guard army, because I essentially painted them all black and kind of highlighted them a little bit back up from the black, and put like the red trim around the shoulder pad and stuff like that, and got the Raven Guard transfers from, I think it was from Forge World at the time, got them posted out. But yeah, so oh, she says, oops, I don't know what that's done, mate. John says, one of the biggest inspirations for my recent painting was your monthly challenges. You know what, mate, that it's very kind of you to say that, and without kind of like sounding like I'm blowing my own trumpet, there's a few people have said how much the monthly painting challenges help them, and I never really thought about them as like sort of too intensely, if you like. I always just thought of them as case of like you know, it's something to kind of give the community something to come together once a month kind of thing. But yeah, there's a few people have said very nice words about it, so I'm glad, mate. I'm absolutely glad that it gives you a little bit of motivation. Tissy Brain Drain says, I've already done my part and liked. Nice one, mate, nice one. RG likes, yes. Peter Cooman says, I did the same, but I did Iron Hands for a quick and easy army. I've no idea why. VJ has very, very kindly super chatted there, and I've got no idea why it hasn't popped up on the screen yet. I'm assuming it will come up like, there it is, it's just come up now. So he says, there's a super chat, so you can buy some tape to put over the power button on the lapel mic. It's one of those things, mate, where it only ever goes wrong once, and then you kind of like, it never happens again because you don't make that same mistake again kind of thing. So yes, it'll never ever happen again now that I know. And you're right, that's exactly what I'll do, is put tape over it. John says, my next 40k project is going to be Ravenwing. Nice one. I must admit, I do like the look of a Space Marine army. I'm not sure I could bring myself to paint one these days. Maybe a combat patrol I could probably push myself to, but I'm not sure I could kind of bring myself to be painting sort of like 100 Space Marines, all the same kind of thing. Not unless I was really kind of heavily into playing it. But I do like how they look on the table. Speaking of super chats, I had a chat with somebody over the weekend, and I won't say who it was in case they don't want me to kind of say who it was. But somebody was saying to me, you are the only person that I watch who live streams who never asks for people to super chat or to pledge to their Patreon. He said, you're far too polite and you should tell people. So in a really awkward way of trying to promote super chats and Patreon and stuff like that, because let's not forget, folks, this is what pays my bills. Feel free to donate if you are inclined to do so and you have the funds available and it doesn't inconvenience you too much. So there you go. You know who you are. I won't call you out and tell you who it was that told me that I should ask, but there you go, I've asked. And as I said at the time, it feels really awkward. I don't like asking. Super Pokemon says, I use the monthly challenges to continuously set up my painting. I think it means step up his painting as well. Yeah, I think, funny enough, I was chatting as well to Bobby Clark, who's in the chat there tonight as well. Red Eagle Painting Studio on Instagram, if you want to follow him. He is a phenomenal painter, and it was nice just to sit and have a chat. And we were talking about painting and kind of like leveling up and sort of pushing your skills and trying to learn new stuff. And he was astounded that I said I'd never actually painted in the same room as anybody else. I'd never had like a painting lesson type of thing. Even, I'm not talking about anything professional, but I mean like sitting in a GW store with somebody going, this is how you thin your paints, this is kind of how to put it on, that kind of stuff. Like I've never had any painting lessons. I've never really watched any painting videos from YouTube either. So I know I make a lot of like probably basic errors. And I've always kind of said like, you know, it's good enough. I'm happy with where it is. And it's true to an extent. I know I can paint better than I generally do, but I've got myself into this situation now where I think I paint for a balance of acceptable and fast. And I think that's kind of like where I've ended up now. But after the conversation that I had with Bobby, I think I am going to try at some point and like try and push my skills a bit and try and do something a bit different and a bit outside my comfort zone. And maybe it's only 1 or 2 models, or maybe it's a small warband for something or something like that. But I think I might try and kind of just try and sort of up my game a little bit, try taking it to the next level, try learning and ask for advice as well. It's not something I've ever really done before. I think I've said here plenty of times, you know, I'm the world's worst person asking for help and stuff like that. So yeah, so I think I might try and kind of up my game a little bit at some point. Bloggy's in as well. Evening, mate, how are you doing? Long time no speak. He says, hope all is well. It's been awesome seeing you on the Mantic YouTube channel. Yeah, I mean, basically what happened, mate, was Mantic of the Johnny, who was recently doing their videos for them, no longer works for Mantic. He's gone on to have a career in something that he was very passionate about. I don't want to divulge too much. It's not my story to tell, kind of thing. But he decided to leave Mantic and pursue his kind of like something he was much more interested in. And at the minute, they're without somebody to make videos. So they got in touch and said, would it be possible to kind of come down, record some open day stuff for us, and kind of give us a bit of a hand? And that's why I've appeared on the Mantic channel recently, basically just sort of freelance and being a guest host presenter kind of thing, really. Where are we up to here? Peter Cummins, he did some Raven Wing and his Dark Angels. Black is still a bugger to paint. Not when you don't overthink it. You can just spray it black. You can get away with just spraying it black. It covers a lot of sins. Super Punker Man saying better than yesterday, even better tomorrow. Clive Dashing, thank you so much for the super chat there, mate. Really is appreciated. He says, I just annoy VJ and knock his name off the screen. You get to stay at the top. I've set it up. This is one of the reasons why I've set it up the way I have. Is so that basically at the bottom of the screen there, you'll always see the last person who super chatted. So you get your kind of moment in the sun for a little bit. But down the left-hand side of the screen, it always shows the last 4 people who've either pledged to the Patreon or who've super chatted as well. So yeah, you do get a little bit more time in the sunshine. Everybody gets to see what a good egg you've been and how you've helped keep the channel going. So thank you very much. Ed saying, I'm trying to learn oils at the moment. It's not going particularly well, but I'll persevere. That's something I've never ever tried, mate, and lots of people have told me that it like that I should give it a go, kind of thing, and that it gives a really good sort of like a good effect. But it's one of those things where it means I've got to go and buy like a load of oil stuff and kind of spirits and all that kind of thing. I don't have them, and I've never really got that kind of grimy model in mind to kind of use that stuff. So maybe it's just as a prime example. Have I got it on my shelf here? I don't think I have. I think it's in the drawer. I bought some of that kind of dirty down rust stuff. I've never ever used it because I've never found a project where I've wanted to use it. But the idea was to try and kind of do something different. Where are we up to here? John saying, I used to go to a store in Seam called Games of War. I used to go to that store as well, mate. Out the back of the store was a gaming and painting area. On person I used to paint next to, he was a trained artist and he gave me some great tips. I used to play War Machine there, mate, on a Saturday morning many, many moons ago. Andrew Fairbanks says, afternoon and evening and morning. Is it a motivation issue if any time you try a hobby gets interrupted by children? I don't think that's a motivation issue. That's more of an interruption issue, isn't it? Bobby's saying, great to hear you're going to be a little more adventurous with your painting. You'll have an ego like me in no time. I tell you what, there's nothing wrong with that, mate, to be fair. Peter says, yes, spraying it black is an option, but when everything in the army is black, you really need to distinguish stuff. Yeah, there is that, mate, but what I found was by kind of almost a bit of a dry brush of like a grey to give like a bit of an edge highlight, and then like a wash of like null oil over the top to kind of dull it down a little bit, gave like a good enough effect. And I wouldn't necessarily do it like that these days, but back when I first started painting models, like when I didn't know any better, that was kind of what I did, and I guess that was the easy way for me to kind of edge highlight sort of bits and pieces and pick out where where the belt is a little bit and things like that. And then obviously there was the red on the shoulder. You'd pick out the Raven Guard emblem on the shoulder and things like that, and then the other shoulder would have the different markings and stuff. So yeah, it wasn't awful, but yeah, it was a long time ago. Let's have a little look here. VJ says, sad to hear Johnny's moved on, but to be honest, Mantic have a great resource in your skills. They are mad not to utilise you. Well, I think it's I've just got a good relationship with the guys there that basically I enjoy playing their games, yeah, and they've helped me out over the years with stuff like sending stuff for me to review and sending things for me to look at. I guess I've helped them out as well in the past by kind of reviewing their games and sort of given a bit of airtime to some games that maybe fly under the radar a little bit if you're not kind of aware of Mantic stuff. So it's just been something like we've just got a good relationship over the years, really. I've got a good relationship with a number of different companies, really, but it's just, I guess, Mantic's the one that's always kind of maybe gone that like little bit further, I guess, really, on a more frequent basis. Luke says, I'm about to get the stuff to try out oil washers, and also going to build myself a dry brush palette. I must admit, the dry brush palette thing, I've got one of the MDF ones that I got with the dry brushes, and it does work, to be fair, rather than using a paper towel all the time, which essentially like dries out the brush, it dries out the paint. The MDF pad does seem to make a bit of a difference. John saying, I thought you looked familiar. I used to go every Saturday. I used to play a Pathfinder RPG with my mates. I'm trying to think how long ago it was now, mate. So I was married to my ex-wife at the time, so that shows you how long it was. Definitely a while ago. I would say it was probably about, hang on, the kids are 21 now. They'll have been about 5 or something like that. It must be 16 years ago, mate, I think, when I used to go. It must be. Vijay says, if I was going to do a Nurgle 40k Marine army, I would just slather them in Dirty Down and Nurgle's Rot tech paint and call it done. Yeah. And Haxan says, because I paint to play, I tend to paint quickly. I try to do it slower, but I think I'm just in the habit of painting quick. It's all about like whatever you're trying to achieve. There's not necessarily a right way or a wrong way to do it. There's only the right way for what you want. If you just paint to play and maybe painting isn't the enjoyable part for you, absolutely doing it quick and putting contrast paints on and sort of dry brushing and all that kind of stuff, flying through it might well be the right way to do it. For me, I don't really paint big armies generally, and painting for me is an enjoyable pastime. I started in this hobby just painting models. Gaming was never really something that I was interested in until much later, and I find painting quite relaxing. So that's for me, I think that's probably why I should treat it with a bit more respect in terms of try and get a little bit better at it, because if I enjoy it and it's a relaxing pastime, why would I want to kind of try and rush through it and just get the job done? So yeah, having the chat with Bobby the other day just kind of, I think it just made me think about it a little bit, really. And that I think since I've been doing this YouTube channel, I think I've treated painting just as part of the job, and I just need to get this done so I can make that video kind of thing, rather than I'm enjoying the process of painting. Steve Evans says, I'm painting Black Templars at the moment and lightly sponge 3 shades of grey onto the armour. It looks black from a distance but has some texture and definition. Also using oils for the first time. Yeah, I think I was doing a very primitive version of something like that many moons ago. So yeah, it's probably right. ER910, greetings to you as well, mate. Haxan says, even when I've tried painting bigger display models like the Dragori Dragon collection, I've still painted them in no time. Yeah, again, as I said before, I don't think there's any right or wrong way. There's only what's right or wrong for you. It's if you just want to get something done, if you get your enjoyment from having it finished and on the table as opposed to the actual process of sitting painting, then you knock yourself out, mate. You make sure you do it that way. Peter says, I've shared a pic of my bikes on the Facebook group. I'll check that out tonight, mate. Thank you. John says, I've not been going since the shop opened. It's no longer open. I think it closed about 6 years ago. Yeah, it did close a while ago. My memories of that place, mate, was that they used to have a dog and he used to shit on the floor. So everybody used to put their bags on the tables because you didn't want to leave your bag on the floor. That was for sure. Bloggy says, I can't wait until Mantic Sci-Fi video tomorrow. Hopefully they give us more info on Epic Warpath. They do, mate. They do. And yes, I know you can't give any spoilers. That's Ronnie's job. The interview tomorrow is with Matt Gilbert, who's the studio manager for Mantic Games. And we start off talking about Firefight. We then go on and talk about Dead Zone. We then go on and talk about Warpath, which is the epic scale game as well. And there are some reveals in there about some new models. There's some reveals about what might be coming down the line into Firefight and what might be coming down the line into Dead Zone as well. And there's also a bit more of a reveal about Warpath as well. So if you are a fan of sci-fi gaming, and especially the Mantic stuff, then yeah, I think you'll be pleasantly pleased with the news. And I actually think that even if you were at the open day, I don't think Ronnie talked about some of the stuff that Matt talks about in the interview as well. So even if you were at the open day, I think there's still some new news in there. Bobby Clark said, I'd be happy to let you borrow some of my painting supplies if you need them, Andy. Always here if you want to bounce off some ideas or need help. I appreciate that, mate. And after sitting having a conversation with you, mate, I will definitely be reaching out and asking a bit of advice. Because I honestly think I could probably just do with, like, somebody saying, yeah, like, you're doing that wrong before you've even started, kind of thing. Like, as I said to you when we were sitting chatting, I still think I probably don't thin my paints correctly or whatever, like, because nobody's ever shown me how to do it. So I've kind of just, I've gone with what felt right. And it's not the easiest thing to see in a YouTube video. And the old adage of, like, sort of the consistency of skimmed milk or something doesn't really kind of, like, ring true to me, really. So yes, Bobby, I will be in touch about that one, mate. Thank you very much. Kevin Gallagher says, good evening, Andy. Good evening, Kevin Gallagher. How are you, my friend? Nice to see you in the chat this evening. Yoakum as well. I missed that one. It just gave me a super chat as well. Thank you very much, Yoakum. Hugely appreciated, my friend. He says, for the monthly painting challenges that keep me motivated to get some minis finished. I'm really glad that they do motivate people, really, because it's not something I really kind of considered too much. Anyway, let's start chatting about I was going to say about motivation, but we're talking about getting inspired in miniature wargaming and about being inspired. And the reason that this came to me this morning as today's topic really is because, as I've mentioned before there, I was at Mantic's open day over the weekend. And it's funny because the open day, I'm in a fortunate position with the job that I do and the relationship that I have with the guys at Mantic. I tend to know what's coming down the line, and it's sometimes I have to try and kind of bite my tongue and not tell people about it, and look all surprised when the stories come out, when it gets revealed. So the open day for me is normally less about finding out all the new cool stuff. It's just a nice opportunity to kind of go down and hang out with people who are all wanting to talk hobby, all wanting to talk sort of Mantic stuff. And it's nice to meet some of you folks as well who I ordinarily wouldn't get to see face to face. I met a few folks who were like subscribers or were Patreons of mine over the weekend. I even signed an autograph for somebody in their Kings of War rulebook. There was a young lad who played the Undead Army, wanted me to sign an autograph on the Undead page of his Kings of War rulebook, which always makes me feel really, really awkward. But it was a lovely gesture, and I hope he was happy about it. But it was really inspiring just to kind of to see all those fantastic models in the cabinets at Mantic, to see everybody playing games, to see the buzz around the place, people smiling, people purchasing new stuff to take home and work on the hobby, people had brought things with them to show off, and like, this is this new army that I'm painting kind of thing. Speaking to people that design the games, speaking to people that sculpt the miniatures, speaking to the people that work in the artwork department. All that in itself is very inspiring, and I came away from that weekend with a kind of like a second wind of like, oh, I'm really looking forward to kind of getting some hobby done and playing some games again. But that's just kind of one way of getting inspired. You can go to a tournament, you can go to a game store and just kind of be around other people who love the thing that you love, and that in itself can be very inspiring. You know, you see what the army that your friend's been painting, or you see one in the window of like the kind of in the display cabinet in the store that somebody's displaying inside the place, and you think, oh, that's really cool. How did they do that? And kind of you get inspired by it. But it's something that you can go through waves of like feeling a bit stuck in the mud, like, oh, like I've been painting this army for 2 years, I'm getting a bit sick of doing the same thing over and over again, or I'm playing this game and I'm not particularly enjoying it at the minute. I feel like every time I play, I just get my butt handed to me, and you can get a bit kind of down in the dumps about it a little bit, and all the different ways that you can get inspired, and some of them kind of you maybe like don't think about it. They can just give you that little renewed kind of sense of optimism, or that little renewed sense of energy to kind of go again and keep going, and remind you really why you do this hobby, why this is the hobby that you love, kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I saw some amazing stuff over the weekend. When I was sent the Hametsu book, the really kind folks at BlackJack Studios sent me out some Hametsu miniatures and the Hametsu rule book. That is probably the most beautiful rule book I've ever seen. It's inspiring in and of itself. The artwork is beautiful. The quality of the book is beautiful. It's in a really nice slipcase. The story of Hametsu and the background and the scenarios and the way you can create your characters, like it got the juices flowing for me. Like, it makes me want to build like a proper sort of Japanese themed board with the cherry blossom trees and the kind of the oriental buildings and things. It really inspiring, and kind of sending me in a hobby direction that I've never tackled before. I've never really painted anything in that theme, and then I'm thinking, I could use that as like, that would easily double up as like a 10 Thunders board for Malifaux or something like that as well. So it was really inspiring to see stuff like that. So just picking up like rule books or looking at artwork can be really inspiring when it comes to your tabletop games. But I honestly think if you feel like you're kind of in that bit of a rut or anything like that, just speaking to other people. Online is great, but getting face to face with people, getting out there, getting to a local store, getting to a local gaming group, going to a convention, going to a tournament, going to an open day. It's amazing how just being around people and being around that buzz of other people that love the thing that you love, how much you will come away of like just feeling like, you know, your chest's puffed out kind of thing. Like, I've had a great day, I'm inspired, I want to paint that new army, I've got some great ideas. It made a huge difference. Because I work on my own a lot, and I've mentioned this many times on live streams, that it can become a little bit kind of, you forget. Like, I started doing this full time just as the pandemic hit in 2020, in March 2020, and I don't think I really kind of fully comprehended that I was working on my own. I just thought, oh, well, this is because of the situation that everybody's in around the world. You've got to stay at home, you can't go out, you can't see people, you can't play games, all that kind of stuff. So I never really thought about it, and it wasn't until probably a year or two after that it's really kind of dawned on me that I do just work on my own. Like, I'm on my own all day. Like, I don't really work with anybody else. And getting to an event like Mantic's Open Day, going to tournaments, going to conventions is enough to kind of kickstart me again and get my juices flowing and get my inspiration going and remind me why we do what we do, kind of thing. So yeah, what about you folks? What inspires you, or when have you been inspired? Is it playing games that inspires you? Is it seeing paint jobs online of like sort of really high-end painters that you're really kind of that you follow their work? Is it just seeing the community paint jobs when we do the monthly community thing? Is it just cool to see? It doesn't matter what the painting, like the sort of the painting standards, like just seeing all the different miniatures that are out there, all the different sort of choices that people make when it comes to painting minis. What inspires you? Vijay saying awesome regarding what's coming in the sci-fi video. Sounds super exciting and, dare I say it, inspiring. There you go, mate. Joey C says Brushstrokes Painting Guides did a great beginner's YouTube video on how to thin your paints. I'll have to look out for that, mate. Every video I've ever watched always kind of tells me to thin my paints to the consistency of skimmed milk, and at that point I pretty much turn it off. Clyde says, looking at other people's work in the hobby keeps me going. That and trying to keep up with painting challenges to slay mounts of reserve miniatures. Ronnie used a term today in the video that I released, which was the lead under the bed. and that definitely had conjured up kind of images of just these piles and piles of miniatures in boxes just stashed away in bedrooms. Matt says, I've always found making it a social thing helps tons. A couple of mates sat round chatting whilst painting will make time fly past. Plus you get way more cups of tea, mate. I think I'd quite like to kind of try kind of painting face to face with someone, really, like, you know, like not like staring each other down, but like just sitting like hobbying in the same room. Like we never sort of like, it seems obvious that when we get together we play a game, but what isn't obvious is, well, why don't we get together and kind of paint miniatures kind of thing? Now, it might be obvious to other people, but it's never really crossed my mind. John says, I don't really thin my paints anymore, as the paints I use are really thin anyway. I think I just, like, as you can see, I have lots of different ranges, lots of different paint companies. There's Vallejo, there's TT Combat, there's the two thin, the Duncan Rhodes paints, two thin coats, GW paints, I've got Army Painter stuff. I've got lots of different paint manufacturers, and they're all different viscosities, and even within the same ranges, they're all different viscosities. And I guess I kind of, you know, finger in the air, kind of, that it feels about right. But I always feel that I probably should have thinned it more, and then I probably end up thinning it too much, so it ends up being a bit too transparent, and you lose control of the paint, and it's not really being held in the bristles. Maybe I just never get it right. Maybe one day. Dave Mackay, good evening to you, my friend. Frantic is saying only lore and background makes it for me these days. I find lore and background is much more part of my sort of consideration these days. It never used to bother me years ago. I don't read a great deal generally. I'm not a great reader of like novels or stories or anything like that, and the lore and the background was never really something that kind of like when I was painting GW stuff when I first started kind of hobbying many years ago. I never read any of the stories, or I never read any of even the rule books really. I read the rules and I didn't like read any of the background stuff, so it never really attracted me all that much back then. But certainly as I've gotten older, and certainly as I've, like these days, I'm really fortunate to get the opportunity to look at lots and lots of different things. I'm sort of blessed in that regard. I find that the background stories and the kind of like the lore attached to these particular game systems interests me way more than it used to, and it definitely inspires me to want to paint certain things. It inspires me to want to hobby and like build tables and build terrain and stuff like that for those particular games. John says, my main paints I use are Army Painter, Speed Paints, or MIG Ammo Paints, and they're thin enough. Yeah, certainly the Speed Paints, I don't think anybody's sort of suggesting that you necessarily have to thin down Speed Paints, or Contrast Paints for that matter. VJ saying, the Mountaintop Dojo board at the Bushido stand at UK Games Expo was stunning this year. Super inspiring. Yeah, I think I mentioned this to you, mate. I completely missed their stand. I didn't see it. I know I missed a couple of days, not being particularly well. But yeah, on the Friday and the Saturday I was there. I must have walked past it and never even seen it. Big Dave says the display cabinets were awesome. Being able to see the minis in person is really inspiring. It's given me a boost to get back hobbying. Do you know what it is? It's a bit of a double-edged sword as well in terms of inspiring as well, because you get to see them in the flesh and you see how good they are, but then when you get up close, you start to see it like there isn't like lots of blending on them as such. Like, you know, like like some of it might be just airbrushed to give like a base kind of to work from, and then it's like the details that bring it to life. And you start to look at something that is really like fantastically painted and think, actually that might be achievable. I like, you know, with a little bit of practice and a bit of hard work, I reckon I could probably kind of get somewhere near that. And it's more about, like, especially for me, it's more about understanding the techniques, because I look at something like a picture online and I think, I don't even know where to start to do that kind of thing. And that's what me and Bobby were talking about the other night, to be fair. It's just about like understanding the tips and the tricks, and you know, like getting those base colours down to start with and working up from that. Matt saying, as much as I grumble about GW, the local GW store manager is a lovely guy and always up for a chinwag if he isn't juggling customers. Always puts me in a good hobby mood. Honestly, mate, this is not just a rule for hobby as well. This is a rule for life. But being around positive people and talking positivity and talking about fun things and talking about things that you're really passionate about, you'd be surprised how much it just puts you in a better frame of mind. I gave up my season ticket for the football and really have never really ever been back. I've been to the odd game, but I've certainly never considered buying a season ticket again. I gave mine up purely based upon the fact that every week I went to the football match and I met a group of folks in the pub, and we had a couple of pints before the game, and we all just moaned about how bad the team was, and about how bad the manager was, and about how bad it was being at the bottom of the league, and about how we were probably going to get relegated again. And over a period of time, that kind of negativity drives you insane. It drains you. I started to realise that I wasn't even enjoying the football anymore. I was doing it out of habit. I was buying the season ticket every year and going to the pub and not looking forward to going, and it caught up with me, and I never, it's not good. So surrounding yourself with negativity is never a good thing. Conversely, surrounding yourself with positive people and positive atmospheres certainly is a good thing. And that's why, like you say, your local GW store manager kind of, giving you some positive vibes and talking hobby and stuff, it does you the world of good, honestly. Doug saying, being involved in the hobby as a job, it makes it really hard to find inspiration. I'm flooded with stuff pretty consistently, so it kind of takes new and exciting stuff for me. I think there's an element of that for me as well, Doug, to be fair, is that the fact that, as I said before, I'm blessed to be able to get my hands on a lot of different stuff. I get to see things early, so sometimes I kind of miss out in the hype with everybody else. I have to kind of keep my lips kind of sealed, and like, for example, the chats I've had at Mantic this weekend, that I know a lot of what's coming down the line over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, and I can't get excited about them because I have to keep my mouth shut, and I have to sit back and say nothing and wait until they're announced, and then I can get excited about them with you. And that can sometimes kind of pull a little bit of the inspiration stuff out of it. And the fact that I get to try lots of different things. You are surrounded by things that are cool, and but then the next cool thing comes along, or something else comes along, and it's not quite as good, and you think, oh, that's not great. So that's why I find it, when I'm telling you I'm excited about something, when there's something that's come along that's really kind of lit a torch under me, in terms of kind of Metsu, because we've just been talking about it there, because it stands out for me, it's something different. That's not me just saying nice things for the sake of saying nice things. That's because actually it's something that's very different for me, and it has kind of inspired me. But yeah, I totally get your point, Doug. Dave saying, I'm odd in that if I feel I've produced nothing at work, I pick up a brush after a tedious work day, paint some Empire Dust Minis today. I can get that, mate. If you don't feel kind of fulfilled by the end of the day, sort of getting a bit of painting done and stuff will definitely kind of sort of, give you that boost at the end of the day. John says, I'm predominantly a historical gamer. I love reading historical accounts or reading rule books, watching war movies. I went through a bit of a phase, mate, where I was definitely I was on the verge of kind of getting into historical wargaming, and predominantly World War II stuff. And I think it was purely from, I think I'd watched a couple of war movies or something like that, just quite close together or something. I think one of them might have been Fury or something like that. And then I watched something else, and then I got sucked into trying to learn a bit more about it, because I've mentioned this before on live streams. We never really did kind of World War II history at school. We did sort of Industrial Revolution and local history and stuff like that. We didn't necessarily learn about the kind of the big wars or anything like that. And so I kind of started going down the rabbit hole of watching things like World at War in colour and stuff like that, and learning more about it. And it was quite fascinating. But then I think, again, I did another live stream as well where I talked about how confusing getting into historical gaming was, because there was stigmas attached to kind of doing it the right way, and which faction, sort of not factions as such, but which early war and late war, and can an army that was fighting in 1940 fight against an army that was fighting in 1939, and all that kind of stuff. And we went through all that, and I think the entry point into historical wargaming wasn't as obvious as it is in something like kind of skirmish games or miniature like fantasy miniatures games or sci-fi miniatures games. It wasn't as obvious for me anyway. But yeah, I can see how that kind of definitely inspires you, right? Joey C saying, for me, inspiration comes from getting a new mini or a batch of minis and then thinking, oh, I could do something cool with one of these. Would love to do painting with others too, but haven't yet. Yeah, I think definitely, mate. There's that little endorphin rush, isn't there, of buying something new, kind of thing. That's why people get addicted to shopping, and it's why we've all got more minis bought than we've ever got painted. Everyone gets that little kind of pang of excitement from buying something new. Mark Watson says, I get over-inspired, which is why I have a modular fantasy Japan Napoleonic sci-fi colony board. I'm thinking of extending to cover English Civil War. I've never met anybody who's been over-inspired, mate. It sounds like that could be quite tricky, to be fair. Super Pumpkin Man says, I always like to paint while playing RPGs with my friends. Do you mean painting while you're playing the RPG, or do you mean playing the RPG with your friend inspires you to paint miniatures for the RPG? Because I've got this picture of everybody kind of sort of having this discussion in an RPG, and you just sitting there going, hang on, let me just finish the eyes. Oh, that jumped massively ahead. Let me scroll back a little bit and find out where we were up to there. RGC and seeing really cool 3D terrain models. Yeah, I love 3D terrain stuff, mate. It says, it's odd. It's a reaction to a green sheet, polystyrene and paper roads as a child, wanting something that looks cool to play games on. Yeah, I agree. A cool looking board will always pull me in as well. There is some fantastic 3D printed stuff, and one of my misgivings, if you like, or one of my what's the word I'm looking for? One of my misconceptions, I think, is probably the word I'm looking for, about sort of PLA printing, was that the print lines were really visible. It left a horrible finish. They were pretty low quality and stuff like that. And that's just not the case. If you set it up right and you've got a decent printer and you've got a good file, you can actually print some pretty, I mean, yes, there are some layer lines, but they're not as noticeable necessarily as you would imagine, or as I imagined from pictures I'd seen online. And honestly, I was just saying this at the weekend, sometimes when you're printing something quite impressive on a PLA printer, it's like seeing magic happen in front of your eyes, just watching the kind of the bed going backwards and forwards and the print head going side to side, and kind of just from nothing appears this structure. I just find it absolutely fascinating. Ed saying, I've never done painting as a social activity. I'd definitely be playing a game if I had a friend over or was out to a club. Painting would feel like a wasted opportunity. I definitely get the impression, mate, from you that you're very much a gamer. Like you definitely seem to play a lot of games. You take a great deal of sort of enjoyment from playing games and playing lots of different games as well. But for me, a lot of it is just the social activity. Actually sitting together and just sitting having a cup of tea and having a chin wag, in the same way I would go to a local pub and sit and have a couple of pints and just sit and chat to a friend. I could see just sitting having a cup of tea or something and sitting painting with a friend would give me a very, very similar kind of social experience, where I think if we were playing a game, your mind is kind of on the game a little bit, and we probably wouldn't have that kind of back and forth chit chat the same way. John says, if I do thin paints, I use matte medium rather than water. See, I've always just used water. I've never really thought about using... I mean, when I got these TT Combat paints, they did send me a bottle of like thin and medium. But as you can see from that, if you can tell, it's still full. Like I still just use water, to be fair, which might not be the best thing, to be fair. VJ says, the new Army Painter Fanatic paints look awesome. Just for consistency of opacity alone, they look amazing. A one coat bright yellow, yes please. I haven't seen much. I don't know much about the actual paints themselves, mate, but I have seen that they've got this new range coming out, and they're marketing it as like the perfect paints kind of thing, or something along the lines of, we thought the perfect paint doesn't exist, but we might have found it kind of thing. So I don't know much about why they're different. But it's interesting that they've obviously found something that they want to shout about anyway. Matt says, Inferior Pissed, that's not a real thing. Imperial Fist players will fall to their knees and weep, knowing that will soon be possible. I've never really had too much problems painting yellow, I'll be honest. But maybe that's because I do it wrong. Mordecai says, sorry I'm jumping in late, so not sure if you've mentioned it, but have you tried using thinning medium to thin your paint? It can make a big difference if you're having trouble with water. I don't think I'm necessarily having trouble, I just don't know whether it's right or not. I think that's the difference. And as I've just mentioned there, no, I've not. I do have the stuff, but I've never really kind of used it. VJ says, I'm gradually phasing all my paints over to Army Painter now, as my Citadels run out. Between Speed Paint and New Fanatics, Army Painter are nailing it. It's probably the one company I've never really used, mate, if I'm honest, and it goes back to like the older Army paints, which you had to shake the absolute hell out of them to kind of get it to mix. You always got that little bit of gunk out that came out first that was really watery, and then like, so you were basically, it was like the medium rising to the top in the paint. You always just end up getting that out, so they always felt like very thin or very not very pigmented, and that's all it was. They just weren't mixed very well. Andrew Fairbanks says, I had that moment with a Fire Slayer painted by Duncan Rhodes at the Dallas Warhammer Cafe. Up close it was meh, 3 foot or more. Awesome. It's amazing, isn't it, mate? I've been fortunate to see kind of like Angel Heralda's painted miniatures that he's done for different companies up close, held them in my hands and seen them, and they're so smooth, they're so matte, they look flawless. But there's something about looking at them up close, and not like in a picture where, you know, where it's all kind of fancy and stuff, but something about seeing them up close, they start to look achievable. You start to see things and go, I think I could do that with a bit of practice. Like if I took my time, if I thinned my paints a bit better, I think I could do that. RG says, my local Element Games team are a really friendly bunch. Nothing better, mate, than having a good bunch of folks at game stores. Not everybody has a local gaming store. Even less people have a friendly local gaming store. Some of them are not as friendly as they could be, shall we say. So if you've got a good store, mate, make sure that you support it. Matt says, sounds like heresy to me. I don't even know what you're talking about there. Joseph's saying, set a goal. I decided I wanted 52 minis by year end. I sit down to paint for 10 minutes a day. I usually go past 10 and have painted 76 minis so far. For me, it's not necessarily the volume of minis, mate. It's not unless I was painting an army, for example. For me, it's become part of my job, and I think I've adjusted the way I think about painting because of that. But to take a step back and think of it more about, you know, I got into this whole thing painting because it was therapeutic, it was relaxing, it helped me chill out at the end of a long day at work when I'd been sort of busy, or if I was traveling, I could take like a little travel set away with me and sit in a hotel on my own and not worry about having to like sort of try and be so like social and sit in the bar every night and all that kind of stuff. It was nice just to sit in a hotel room and sit and paint a few minis. So yeah, it's not the volume of stuff that for me would be the goal. It would more be about like, am I happy with the outcome at the end, I suppose. Tasty Brain Drain saying, so what you're saying is I should stop being a Saints fan. Sometimes it can feel like abuse, mate, supporting some sports teams. I've certainly had it over the years with my teams, and I think at the point when you feel like it's not fun anymore, it's definitely worth taking a look at. I know you kind of support your team through thick and thin, but honestly, I did get to a point with my local team where it was just negativity all the time. Everything you read in the press was just bad news, or players are injured, or we've got beat again, or this one's leaving, or we've got no money. The club's got no money. They're not spending. They're not going to buy anyone. They're going to sack the manager again. It was just down and down and down and down. John says, I picked up a pack of 12 pack of oil paints to make pill washes from the works. Cost £5. See, I guess that's the stuff I don't really need to. I don't even know what I need to get the cheap versions of it, mate. Andrew Fairbanks says, every time I hear Americans say the MLS needs promotion and relegation, that's why it's a bad product. I roll my eyes. It's bad because our top athletes go into American football and basketball. I think it's promotion and relegation is a fundamental part of kind of English football, and the idea of it is everybody has the opportunity in terms of if you're in like a Northern League, which is like 7th or 8th division football, you know, if you win, you will get promoted. You will get the chance to go to the Premier League one day if you keep growing and you keep getting, like, you keep kind of winning your games. The problem these days is it is so sort of money orientated. You go back sort of 20 years ago, it wasn't like that, but it is now, when you've got like Saudi governments buying football teams and things like that now, that basically those teams at the bottom now really don't have a chance of ever getting to the Premier League now. And it's generally the same kind of 25, 30 teams really that will just constantly keep going up and down, and because it's like a merry-go-round with the money now. So the ideology of it and the dream of it and the kind of like, you know, the idea of promotion and relegation, I think, is right. But yeah, these days it's almost irrelevant now. Super Pokemon Man says, what keeps me painting at least is the artist itch. If I do not make something, paint something just because I randomly have an idea, I'll go bat crap crazy. Yeah, I think everybody needs a bit of a creative outlet, mate. Absolutely they do. Where are we up to here? Nosef is saying, personally, as to what inspires me to buy is the lore of the world and the army team comes from. As for painting, the theme is mostly inspired by the artwork that comes with the lore. Yeah, I would agree, mate. There's definitely times when I've been inspired to start a new army or paint certain miniatures by background or lore. And even like to the extremes of like the art and lore, if you like. Things like Star Wars Shatterpoint, Marvel Crisis Protocol, like reading certain comic books, watching certain movies, seeing like, you know, like seeing certain TV shows can inspire me. That's still essentially like lore and background, really. He says an example is the Dragon Army I paint now for AEG L5R, is that Legends of the Five Rings, Clan Wars. The theme is green yellow, so I paint them in that theme. Nice, mate. Clyde says there comes a time in every man's life when he has to decide to get really interested in historic battles or smoked meats. If we had better weather here, mate, I think I would definitely be somebody that barbecued. Absolutely, I love a barbecue. It just tends to chuck it down with rain more times than enough here. So it's I remember seeing this. There was a comedian I saw online, and he was saying about how Australians plan a barbecue when they go, we're going to have a barbecue at the weekend. Do you and the family want to come over? And they go, yeah, I'll bring some meat. Yeah, I'll bring the beers and all this kind of thing. And he said the only way in the UK we can plan a barbecue for the weekend is if we all go to Spain for the weekend and have a barbecue. He said because our weather forecast isn't it's only accurate for about the next 10 minutes kind of thing. So yeah, it was quite interesting. Bobby saying meeting positive hobbyists who share their successful painting stories while also overcoming hurdles is super inspiring for him. Got back from Nottingham this weekend and was itching to paint. Nice one, mate. I'm glad it was a good trip for you, buddy. Peter saying, fun fact, my bolt action Soviet army uses stuff that lasts through the entire war, so no stress. See, this is what I mean about how it's difficult, the entry point. I feel with historical gaming, you almost need to be maybe not an expert, but you need to be an avid historical or historian, if you like. You need to be an avid historian to even make an entry point. Where I feel with like a skirmish game or like in fantasy or sci-fi or maybe like kind of like a kind of alternative history or something, you just, you know, you pick up a faction box and get started kind of thing. Where I do feel with historical stuff, you need to be a bit of a historian. That could be completely wrong, but that's the vibe I get. That's the feeling I get from it. Joseph saying, what I don't understand about historicals is the scale. The more you play, the smaller the minis seem to get. Are you sure that's not just the more you play, the older you get, the worse your eyes are, and the further away everything seems to be? He says, started World War II at 28mm, moved to 15, and now I have 6mm tanks. I'm impatient. Definitely, mate. A bit of chat there. Super Pumpkin Man says, I paint while we are gaming. The advantage of my ADHD allows me to multitask really well. That's awesome, mate. I like the fact that you've kind of found a way that just kind of, it works for you. That's awesome, mate. Yeah, Clyde's saying there's craft beers as well, definitely. Zingbo says, I think I painted in a group a couple of times long ago, but it never really made sense as a social thing to me, especially not now when I have my head right against a magnifying glass. Yeah, maybe for the you younger folks who can see what you're doing, it may be a bit easier. VJ says, speaking of playing games, I was impressed that you and Ronnie mentioned in the video that organised play is more than just tournaments. Yeah, I always find that there's a perception that organised play and tournaments are one and the same thing, and it's like a tournament is organised play, but organised play is not just tournaments. Like if you put on a gaming day at the local store and you're putting on demos, that is organised play. If you say there's a bowl action night every Wednesday at our local store, that is organised play. Somebody has taken the lead to organise something so that people who like to play that particular game can know that they can come and get some games. You get like Marvel Crisis Protocol, for example, does these organised play packs, which are kind of like a themed scenario with like the new models. That's not a tournament. That's just playing these organised play scenarios. So yeah, I wanted to make the point really and kind of be really clear with it, because a lot of people get put off by the idea of organised play, and they shouldn't do. It's like I say, tournaments are organised play because they've been organised for people to play together in a competitive way. But organised play is not just tournaments. Doug saying, I've been inspired recently to build some fantasy stuff. Not really my style, because my daughter is getting interested in the hobby and she loves the fantasy stuff. I tell you what, mate, once the kids start getting kind of into it as well, my little lad goes through kind of moments of wanting to paint zombies and wanting to paint aliens and soldiers and things like that. And it makes me go into the garage and kind of drag out old models and stuff like that and find things that I can use for him. And I end up painting stuff I would never have probably picked up. It's been lying around for years. So yeah, once the kids get involved, mate, it's nice just to do stuff with them. It doesn't really matter what it is, and it's amazing how it can change your perception on stuff, and it can inspire you to do something you wouldn't normally do. VJ says Imperial pissed, so that's why their armor's yellow. And VJ saying, yeah, I never used the old army painter paints. Clyde saying, oh my goodness, there's a 3D meat printer. We do live in the darkest timeline. You can get cheese in a can, mate. Let's not diss 3D printed meat. Super Pokemon says Imperial piss sounds like 40k slang for bad beer. I've been to that bar, mate. I know what it's like. John says, yeah, my old army painter paints, I add 2 glass beads to them, magnetic beads, and mix using a vortex mixer, and they work great. Yeah, and that's been my experience in the past, is that you really have, for some reason, they take a lot of like activating, a lot of mixing. It's almost like whatever the medium is in them and the paint just seem to really separate out, and they separate out quick, and every time you use them you've got to shake them to within an inch of your life. RGC is not a fan of army painter paints, tend to use Vallejo and Proacryl with a big Citadel contrast collection. I've never used Proacryl paints. My new gaming store that's open not far away from me now has a full range of them. I might pick a few up just to try them and see what they're like, because everybody raves about them. But yeah, as you can see, I'm not short of a couple of paints really, which is why I tend up not buying all the new stuff. It's why I've never tried the army painter speed paints, because I've still got a full range of the contrast paints there. I've been fortunate that I've been sent some stuff over time, so yeah, I think I'll probably drop down dead before I use all the paints up, to be fair. Peter Kuhlman says he's pushing 200 painted this year. Slow year. Wow. Couldn't even dream of painting that many models. Pages in curmudgeonly local gaming store. I've been to that store, mate. John Shepherd's in Imperial piss now. I have a 40k faction coming to mind, the Golden Showers. Oh dear. VJ's saying, when Andy, Lou and Jack will finally make it over to Australia, I'm 100% putting on a nice big barbecue spread. I love barbecue, mate. I would love to come to kind of like sort of the like south of North America. not South America. I want to come to the south of North America and like properly experience really good like sort of barbecue stuff. I want to go to an NFL game and experience the kind of like the tailgate parties with the food and the beers and stuff like that. We don't have anything like that over here. So yes, I would love to experience real good like proper like pitmaster barbecue stuff. Like I watch all the barbecue shows on Netflix and stuff like that. I haven't got a clue how to cook it myself, but I can tell you when something tastes amazing or not. That's what I'm definitely a fan of barbecue food. John says, I would love a skirmish game based on Stephen King, The Dark Tower. You know what? I started watching the film a while ago and turned it off pretty quickly afterwards. I couldn't really get into it, and I downloaded the audio book for it instead. And I must admit, for some reason, it's completely gone to the back burner of my mind. So I still haven't listened to it yet. I should get back to that because it's in a few parts, isn't it? I think I downloaded the first one. Joseph saying, rain, snow, locust, nothing keeps me from the barbecue grill. I tell you what, mate. Well, I think the difference is because we don't really barbecue that much here, we generally don't have great barbecues. Like our barbecues are very much kind of like sort of something cheap that you buy at the garden centre, rather than being like a decent barbecue kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's just a case of we kind of half-arse it. I think that's the problem. John saying, I smoke meats and historical games. Vicky says, the way to get around historical accuracy thing with World War II is just play Conflict 47. Yeah, that to me ceases to become a historical game, though. That's the thing. Bloggy saying, barbecues might be a thing of the past in my state. They're trying to ban gas grills. Land of the free, my arse. Is it still a barbecue, mate, if you've got a gas grill? Is it not sacrilege to have a gas grill? I always thought true barbecue would have to be on the hot coals. Matty and right, need to skedaddle. Have a good evening all. Enjoy the rest of the stream. Take care, mate. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate you being here, mate. Johnson, yeah, I used to play Friday Night Magic. Nice, mate. Clyde saying, just get the Pro Acryl White. I've heard the white's good. Tim Morton, hello Tim. I don't know why, mate. When I read that name, I was convinced it said Tim Horton, and I had coffee on the mind there, mate. So apologies, Tim. I'm sure you've had that before. He said, I was told with the army painter, don't mix them first thing. Squeeze out the top layer, dispose of that, then shake the bottle. I've heard that as well, mate, to be fair. John Shepard saying, what's the game place called near you? It's called Bay Games, mate. It's in Whitley Bay. It's a friend of mine, actually, Kieran Bradwell, who's opened up the store with his partner. I think it's his wife now, actually. I think they just got married recently. And it hasn't been open that long. June, I think it might have opened. But they do a full range of the Pro Acryl paints. Tasty Brain Drain says, up until very recently, I've always painted with a couple of friends. And as much as I enjoy that, I actually started painting by myself as well. Nice, mate. He says, mainly so I can paint more, as my friends only paint for a few hours every Sunday. It's a good excuse to get people together, though, isn't it? Doug saying, come see us in Texas and we'll get you some damn good food. I tell you what, Doug, I will take you on that offer, mate. At some point next year, because I think we're running out this year now, and I've already got some overseas trips planned at the end of this year. So I'm not going to get another one in, that's for sure. At some point next year, I would love to do a little bit of a kind of a bit of a US adventure, and I will. If I'm in Texas, mate, I'm coming to see you for a barbecue. Bloggy saying NFL tailgating is the best part of the game experience, even if you're a fan of the visiting team. I think it's not something we don't really do the pre-game stuff here in the UK when it comes to like football. We tend to go to the pub and have a beer and then go to the football, because you can't drink in the football match in the UK. So you can go to the bar like underneath the stadium, like under the bleachers, if you're in the States, and you can have a beer there, but you can't take the beer into the stadium and sit in your seat and drink a beer. So we have a very different kind of culture, and like food isn't a real big thing at football matches either. Like you can get you might get a burger or something like that, but they're pretty cheap, awful things. Or you get like a hot pie or something like that. They're generally like pre-packaged rubbish things. So the fan experience, if you like, of UK sports is very, very different, or certainly football, other sports are slightly different to that, because you can, like for example, you can drink in the stadium if it's rugby, but you can't drink in the stadium if it's football. So yeah, we don't have anything like that kind of tailgating experience or anything like that, or people getting together and kind of sort of making that part of the day, if you like. Tasty Brain Drain says, I got a chance to use the Pro Acryl paints at one of the paint and take events at Gen Con, and I feel that they lived up to the hype. I've only ever heard really good stuff about them, to be fair. John says, there was a takeaway place in Sunderland called Holy Smokes. That was great, but it's closed down. Yeah, the odd kind of barbecue place springs up, but I always find that they're kind of like, they're a pale comparison to southern food. That's for sure. VJ says, okay, so inspiration has diverged into meat chat. Yes, it definitely has. Tim saying, painting. I'm one of the oddities with painting. I buy the minis, I paint the minis. Unpainted minis are like a splinter in my mind. But then I got Zombicide Kickstarter and I'm painting madly. Kickstarters will do that to you, mate. Whenever you get more minis than you know what to do with, that's the end of kind of keeping on top of it, that's for sure. VG says, this is how you know it's a real BlackJack Legacy stream. Yes, start on the minis and we will gradually move to some kind of cooked food. That's for sure. Andrew Fairbanks saying, barbecue is low and slow. Brisket with it. Oh, you're making me hungry now, mate. You're making me starving. Brisket with a good rub sauce if you want it sweeter or hotter. I do like a bit of sweetness to the wine. I must admit, I like the sweet sauces. And I'm a big fan that there's a place near us does like a Jack Daniel's honey glaze. And that is over ribs. Fantastic. Big Dave says, back home and off to bed. See you at the next one. Take care, fella. VG says, Army Painter acknowledged the excess medium separation issue and said it was a big thing they wanted to address with the new range. Fair enough, mate, yeah. And Bloggy saying, gas grilling is totally fine. I say that, my mate, I've got a gas barbecue, so I wasn't throwing shade at anything there, by the way. I have a gas barbecue and everybody keeps telling me like it's cheating kind of thing. The secret is to put charcoal right by the burners. I don't think I've ever done that, mate. There you go. Haxan says, I think I've painted over 1,000 minis this year so far. I don't think I've painted 1,000 minis in my life, mate. You've done 1,000 this year. Wow. Yeah, Super Pokemon said, if only I had a second pair of arms, I'd be happy. I tell you what, I think I'd need 2 or 3 extra sets of arms to paint that many miniatures. Tizzy Brain Drain saying, I've never tailgated. I should probably change at some point. I wonder if it's one of those things where it's just like, it sounds better in my head than the reality of what it is. I mean, I've seen like videos on YouTube and stuff of like tailgate parties, so I don't think it's like something I've seen in a movie. I've seen what the reality of it is, but I wonder if I would kind of like just get there and it wouldn't live up to my expectation. Joseph said, I painted with a friend in his living room when I was young, knocked over a pot of orange paint onto his mom's white carpet, and that ended that. That would definitely do that. I remember one of my boys years ago when they were young, I was painting stuff and they wanted to paint as well. And luckily the room that I used to paint in had a wooden floor down, and one of them knocked over a pot of like brown paint and didn't say anything for like a little while, and then just like he was only quite young, and then just kind of went, oh, it looks like a dead hamster. When I kind of like turned around, here's this brown paint on the floor. I was like, oh no. So yeah, luckily it was a wooden floor and it cleaned right up. But yes. VJ is saying, hey, but make sure you put Oz on the travels list, mate. I will do, mate. Yeah, I would definitely love to come to Oz. Just take some sleeping tablets for the flight. Yes, I think you're right. Andrew saying, best inspiration tip I have, sometimes combining ideas that are partially filled out can lead to an awesome creation. That's quite interesting, that, mate, actually. Like that kind of, like combining ideas to create, it's almost like kit bashing with your ideas, isn't it? I like that. John Shepherd said 70s and 80s football hooligans were the reason drinking on terraces was outlawed. Yeah, it was. The 70s and the 80s have got a lot to answer for, mate, in that terms. John says, I have a charcoal bullet smoker. Oh, nice, mate. Haxan says, I've painted 18 tonight. I don't think I've painted 18 this year. Peter says, the most I did was 1,001 in 2017 or 18. Lots of 6mm epic in that year, though. Wow, that is really, really good going. Jez Hunt says, I've had you, hello Jez, I've had you on in the background, slipping in and out and listening, and it's merged. So I gather inspiration comes from barbecuing minis in the football. Need to concentrate more. You're probably right, mate. You're probably right. Clyde says, US road trip sounds good, but the country is so freaking huge. Takes forever to get anywhere. Yeah, but that's kind of part of the adventure, isn't it? That's part of it. I mean, I've been to the US many times, and I've drove in the US quite a bit as well. And driving in the US is a very, very different experience to driving in the UK. It is much more enjoyable. I get it once you start hitting the cities, you know, like sort of drive time in LA or something, or driving through Manhattan. I totally get it. That's not an experience you want. I've driven in Paris, like in the city centre, and that's the craziest experience I've ever had in my life. But just generally driving like the freeways and stuff like that is quite a nice experience. If you get a nice hire car, either something like a nice car. One of the beauties I've always found about driving over when I've been to the US is I get a nice hire car that I don't have here in the UK. Like I've hired big kind of sort of 4x4 truck type things, and it's the kind of car I would love to have in the UK. But our driveways are not big enough for them. Our parking spaces are not big enough for them, and there's absolutely no need to have one over here, really. But it's quite nice to have one over there in the States when I kind of like as a hire car when I'm abroad. So yeah, actually, the road trip and the journey in from place to place would actually be part of the fun for me. Regis says, Package Man was very nice to me yesterday. Delivered Star Wars Villainous Bounty Hunter expansion and Marvel United Spider-Geddon. Nice one, mate. That's a good choice of stuff. Plenty of fun solo board gaming for me for the next few weeks. Nice one, mate. Tiny War Games, good evening, mate. How the devil are you? Nice to see you. Yeah, VJ says 70s and 80s football hooligans is who we have to thank for GW Orcs. Yeah. So it's not all bad, I suppose, is it? Tizzy Braindrain says, I haven't painted 18 minis in my life, though closing in on that number. You've got to start somewhere, mate. Andrew Firebacks is saying, Texas is like a whole nother country. I've never been to Texas, mate. I would love to go to Texas. I'd love to go to New Orleans, or New Orleans, as you might pronounce it. Or even Norlands, I think it gets pronounced as if you're from there. I've never really been much into the South. I've been to Florida. I've been to kind of up in the Northeast, like kind of Philadelphia, New York, around that kind of side. I've been over to kind of like Vegas and sort of like San Fran and kind of around there and things. But I've never done much in the middle, and I've never done anything in the South either. So yeah, I'd like to have a little bit of a road trip. VJ says driving in Australia is a dream compared to the UK. Yeah, driving anywhere feels like a dream compared to the UK. John says, yeah, I like the Dark Tower movie, but it's nothing much like the books. There's 7 books in the series, and they try to cram the whole 7 books into one 90-minute movie. I hadn't realised that, mate. I thought they just made the movie was about the first book. I hadn't realised it was kind of all compressed like that. Yeah, Doug says everyone has 4x4 trucks here in Texas, me included. I would love one, mate. If I had the space and I had the luxury of being able to kind of like drive around somewhere nice, I'd have one as well. There's just something very nice about being that little bit higher up and kind of driving like something that's got loads of power and kind of a bit of road presence. I love them. Clyde says, Haxan, are those minis like army bulk painting or variation? Yeah. Norlands, yeah, Andrew Fairbanks is saying. Yeah, living on the farthest western point in Texas, crossing the whole state takes all day. Yeah, I'm sure I've read a stat at some point that you can fit like the UK into Texas like 3 or 4 times or something like that. So I'm aware of how big it is, that's for sure. Super Pokemon says, I'm a weirdo. I'm a Texan with no 4x4. I drive a Dodge Caliber. You do drive a Dodge though, at least, mate. That's your American roots in you there coming out. We don't really have Dodges over here. Where would you get the odd person sometimes has a Ford Mustang? Very, very rare, to be fair, but they do exist. But we don't have Dodge stuff over here. And even like 4x4s are generally very much more kind of sort of works vehicles. And the only reason they became a little bit more popular was there's a bit of a loophole in the tax system over here, where if your car weighs over a certain weight, it'll qualify as a business vehicle. So what you started to find was lots of people started getting like Range Rovers and kind of 4x4 trucks, and basically writing them off as tax vehicles, writing the tax off as like a business vehicle. That's the only reason they started to kind of become slightly more popular. But yeah, most people wouldn't have one as like just their everyday car kind of thing. Vicious says, I could totally see you and I road tripping the southern US states like a Thelma and Louise, but with man boobs. Speak for yourself. As long as I get to wear a cowboy hat, I'll be alright with that. Tizzy Brain Drain says, as a local historian once said, there are several ways to pronounce New Orleans. The good thing is none of them are wrong. That's good then, because I think I pronounced them all wrong tonight. Johnson, the rest of my Marvel Zombies Kickstarter landed a few days ago, box after box after box. Yeah, that's the reason I kind of gave up on Kickstarters, I think, unless it was something I really, really was passionate about, because I got a few where I got overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that came. Andrew saying, El Paso to Orange, 12:47 on the fastest road you can legally drive. Wow, that is long. Tasty Brain Drain saying, if you make it to New Orleans, let me know, I'll show you around. I would love to come, I'd obviously do the whole touristy thing, come Mardi Gras and all that kind of stuff. You got to make the most of it, haven't you? Maybe one day I'll try and put it on my bucket list. Mark saying Queensland in Australia is 2.6 times the size of Texas, and Australia is the same size as continental US. It's crazy, isn't it, when you kind of do that kind of stuff? Jess says, yeah, but they don't know the glory of a Robin Reliant. For those not familiar with the Robin Reliant, you might be familiar with Only Fools and Horses, the UK comedy show. That yellow 3-wheel car that they drive is a Robin Reliant. Or actually, that might have been a Robin Rialto, actually, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, they're the similar kind of thing. And Ed says, no, we wouldn't tolerate something that generates as little power as a Dodge with an engine that big. And Doug says, here in Texas you see people using the farm vehicle tax loophole, so their truck and their Corvette are marked as farm vehicles. Yeah, it kind of happened here a while ago, and essentially it was something to do with the weight of the vehicle, but obviously people didn't want to drive around in a 4x4 truck kind of thing. So what you ended up with was all of these kind of like middle manager kind of small business CEOs all driving around in Range Rovers, basically. So Range Rover Evoques and stuff seem to be everywhere for that reason. Haxan says, yeah, minis today have been 2 sets of 9 figures from ArtQuest. I'm on the 3rd box, so there's a mix of characters and chaff. Nice, mate. And Tutor Man saying, yes, see anytime in the valley. John says, yeah, there's a Mustang I've seen going through Seam with the typical white with blue striped racing colours. Yeah, they do look cool, mate, to be fair, mate. Bobby Clark says, out of all the people you've interviewed or spoken to since starting BlackJack Legacy, who has inspired you the most? Oh, good question, mate. Who's inspired me the most? I have spoken to lots of different people, to be fair. And I'm trying to think. I mean, it sounds like a cop-out, but I can honestly say I have learned something from every single person I've spoken to, because they've all got different experiences. People have been from all over the world, and they've definitely all kind of... They don't all approach kind of game design the same way, or if they're game designers. They all have their own ways of doing things. So everybody I've spoken to, I've kind of learned something from. But inspired... You know what? I don't think I could really pinpoint one. I would say there are some people you speak to where they've been in the industry quite a long time, and they're really knowledgeable, and they feel wise when you talk to them. Do you know what I mean? I will say like Alessio Cavatori as an example. He's got more experience in his little finger in the games industry than I could ever have, and he knows everyone, and everyone knows him, and he's been there and done that, and he's got some wonderful stories, and it was great to kind of sit and talk to him. But I wouldn't say he necessarily had the same kind of enthusiasm and energy as someone who I was maybe interviewing of writing their first game or something like that, or kind of who was relatively new. Like sometimes the naivety of being new to the kind of tabletop gaming world, and just the excitement and the passion, like that's quite inspiring as well. And like people like Tom Greenway from Moonstone, people like Doug, who's in the chat tonight from Blackside Studios. Like when I've chatted to folks like that, their passion comes across because maybe they haven't been in the industry for 30 years, kind of thing, and seen seen it all and done it all, kind of thing. So I can get inspiration from somebody that like has basically done it and created some of the games that we absolutely like love, and has been around for a long time. But then I also get inspiration from people creating stuff for the first time. So it's a really, really hard one, to be fair. But great question though. Love that, mate. Clyde saying you've literally Haxan, you're literally the inspiration of tonight's chat. Joseph says if you make it to New Jersey, I'll show you how to get out. Local knowledge is always a good thing, my friend. Super Pokemon says I saw some riding a horse around town just the other day. To be fair, you get that in Ireland as well, mate. You get people riding around horses in Ireland, and certain kind of traveller communities and stuff as well. Andrew Fairbanks says, so back on topic, I have an idea for an AOS army, but the thing is I don't want anyone else to steal it. Wow. Share and share alike, mate. Share the wealth. Nobody's going to steal your idea. They will adapt your idea and put their own take on it. It'll still be your idea. But if you don't want to share it, that's entirely up to you, mate. Jess says, it was a Regal Reliant. That's what it was, mate. He says, Dad had a purple one. You can drive them on a motorbike license as they don't reverse. That's true. It is, yeah. Yeah, Super Punky Man saying, yeah, here in Texas, it's just a different way of life. VG says, given people who've made an appearance on the channel, I would say Ronnie is probably the most infectious with his passion. He's definitely really, really passionate. He's very charismatic. He's got bags of energy, and he still comes across as somebody that is hugely passionate about what he does. But you can definitely, he is a salesman through and through. That's where his kind of, like, there is no mistake in that. Like, Ronnie he's not the creative mind behind Mantic. He's the sales guy kind of thing. I'm sure he has lots of good ideas, but there's a small team of people. I was going to say there's a team of people, but it's worth saying it's a small team. There's a small team of people there who then have to go and turn his kind of things into reality. So yeah, he can definitely be infectious with his passion and stuff, to be sure. And Vijay says, I respect what Alessio has done in the hobby, but I really feel like he's either hamstrung or burnt out at River Horse, given the quality of what they're producing. I think it's probably... Is it unfair to say that? I think it's fair to say he doesn't make the products that he used to make when he was with Games Workshop, for example. He doesn't really make miniatures game stuff so much now. He makes much more board games, RPG stuff, licensed stuff. And maybe it's just not to your taste, I would suggest, really. I don't think it's necessarily like... He still does a lot of consultancy stuff for people. So, like, people might not know that, like, Alessio wrote the rules for Conquest. So, Parabellum's Conquest, Last Argument of Kings. Alessio wrote the rules for that. He still does a lot of consulting for Warlord on stuff. So, he's still involved in the miniature game and stuff. But I think River Horse as a company produce more kind of... a more diverse range of kind of board games and RPG stuff, really. Super Pumpkin Man says, interestingly, the term "don't mess with Texas" crosses state and country lines. Clyde says, I'm too lazy to steal ideas. And Jess says, I've seen kids riding horses up Shields Road. Andrew says, I went to a college that isn't in Texas. When we beat Texas, the shirts say, we messed with Texas. Yellow Belly Tabletop, good evening. Says, evening all, back early from the club to catch your end of the stream. Welcome to the end of the stream. Haxan says, I think they came under a motorcycle license due to the weight, as I have had trikes with reverse gear and only have a motorbike license. Oh, I'm not that up on it, mate, but you might be right. Super Punker Man says, my dad was in Ireland and someone got angry with him and simply said that he was from Texas and the guy left him alone. VJ says, when you talked to the board games Mantic division, did anything come up about Jack Caesar's involvement? Jack was there on Saturday, actually. He was kind of demoing something, which was kind of more of a secret project, I think. It wasn't the Worms game. It was something else that he's been working on. But I think he's hired in as a freelance writer, the same way kind of like Needy Cat Games would come in and kind of and write some games, the way that Mark Latham came in and did kind of the Walking Dead stuff. So I think sometimes they just hire in rules writers for certain projects, or maybe rules writers will create a game and try and kind of sell it into Mantic. I'm not sure I'm not like up on how that works really, but yeah, I don't think he works for Mantic, for example. I think it's more just a case he's kind of done some work for them. Yellow Belly Tabletop says Terminator had great potential from Riverhorse. The Labyrinth stuff was nostalgic but a bit too simple. I never played the Labyrinth game, but I did play the Terminator game, and Terminator game was actually pretty good. I liked the mechanic of how basically when you defeated one of the robots, if you like, the Terminators, it basically went to the back of the queue. So there was a constant stream of kind of like Terminators coming at you, which was quite thematic. VG says, yeah, I wasn't aware he was still freelancing for others. I guess that's where his good ideas are going. Bobby Clark says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how awkward does it feel knowing that YouTubers like yourself inspire many people? It's a 10 in awkwardness. I had some really, really nice comments over the weekend from people saying really kind things about me and really kind things about the channel and about how I'd helped them in lots of different ways, and I won't go into details because some of them were quite personal, and that never ever feels comfortable in terms of like people saying nice things. It's funny because I've always like said this to my wife. It's like comments that you get on videos. Like I can never take the nice comments at face value, because if I start to believe the nice comments, then I have to start to believe the bad ones as well. And I know the bad ones are just like nasty, venomous people with some of the comments that come out. But then by the same stretch, it's like, well, why should I believe the nice ones as well? There's something very different when somebody says to your face, like, thank you for your videos, they're really like inspiring, or whatever the phrase would be. But it never gets old in terms of like feeling quite proud about it. Like, which I think is quite nice, but it also never ever feels comfortable. Super Pumpkin Man says it was so annoying that Mantic games are so rare over here. I think it's very regional, mate. I think some of Mantic's games are quite heavily kind of played in the States. I think it's just it's which state you're in and which gaming group you're affiliated with. In the same way, there's pockets of the UK where people don't play Mantic stuff. There's pockets of the UK where people don't play Marvel, for example, or they don't play Star Wars. There's pockets where they don't play Games Workshop, to be fair. So I think it's just you have a bigger country and you have more people and it's more spread out, and generally you might have to travel a hell of a lot more distance to find somebody that does play it. Peter says, Alessio made or co-made some of the games I most enjoy in my collection. The original Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, Bolt Action, the Terminator Genesis game. Yeah. Bloggy saying, does Riverhorse still produce that Terminator game? No, they don't, mate. It's kind of out of production now, to be fair. VJ says, the Labyrinth stuff really disappointed me. That said, not as much as the game that shall not be named. There can be only one game, John. VJ. Jason says, I find this inspirational always. Yeah, you soft soap. John Estelle, good evening, mate. How are you doing? He says he's just got in from getting his new toys on the table. Hope it's been a good evening for everyone. How was your evening, mate? How did the new toys perform? You got them to the table super fast, mate. They painted up lovely and very, very quickly. So how did they perform? Because you know what the rule is, isn't it? About any newly painted models get wiped off first turn. So how did they get on? John said, I think Marvel United Multiverse Kickstarter may be landing soon. I got an update saying the containers had landed in Europe. Nice one. Clyde saying, quick folks, balance Andy out with a load of nasty comments. I balance myself out, mate, by not listening to the nice ones either. It's fine. Vijay says, I really hope Jack has learned his lessons from that game. I'm sure he's a nice guy and you can find worse people to learn from Alessio. I'm looking forward to seeing what this new game is. Yeah, he is a nice guy, mate, to be fair. I've spent a bit of time with him in the past when I've done some stuff with Riverhorse, and I caught up very briefly with him on Saturday as well, had a little bit of a chat with him, and he is a nice guy. I guess it's just like, it's like anything, there'll be some kind of games that really gel with you and some games that don't, and if he designs a game that isn't the kind of game that you like, you would generally find he might keep designing games that are not really your kind of, your style, I suppose. Clyde says, your office studio is too tidy. You can't see the messy bits, that's why. Doug says, to be fair, I do find inspiration from YouTube and podcast content. I tend to build hype through those. Yeah, I guess it can be a blessing and a curse at the same time, but yeah, it's I find it nice to kind of to be able to get on that kind of that hype train with other folks as well. It's nice to know new stuff's coming out, and it's nice to kind of have a little sneak peek behind the curtain and get the chance to make content in advance. But it's also nice to kind of find out that news with everybody else and get excited as well. Suitor Pumpkin Man says, the ultimate inspiration obviously is bacon. Bacon's always the answer, mate. Always. John says, unusually first time out for newly painted models. They did very well. Nice one, mate. He says, Darren's dice being truly dreadful meant nearly everything made it through to the finish line. I say, there's nothing worse than when your opponent's dice is just not with them. Is it? You feel terrible going, no, that's missed. No, that's missed. Or maybe it's just me that feels terrible. Classy, I should do some bacon. Great inspiration. I had a lovely bacon sandwich from Mantic on Saturday, actually. So, yeah, it's the day started off well. Bloggy saying, well, time to head to work. I hope you all had a good evening. Damn, working 2 jobs sucks. I tell you what, it does, mate, as well. And all power to you, buddy. I know what it's like when you need to do 2 jobs. So, yeah, all power to you, my friend. Take care. Let me get a quick drink because my throat is drying out. So yes, folks, just a quick reminder, if you haven't seen last week's this week in Wargaming, please do go and check it out. I tried something a little bit different with it just to see how it would kind of pan out. I'll know more when it's been out for about a week as to whether my experiment proved true or not. But yeah, go and check it out if you haven't already seen it. Doug's in also talking with other writers really gets the pistons moving. Yeah, I think that's where I kind of come to a bit of a mental block sometimes, like creatively and stuff, is I don't tend to kind of like mix in those circles so much. It would be, I wouldn't say like other YouTubers are protective or don't share and don't talk to each other, but generally they're all just they're all in their own little world, all grafting away, all making their own videos. And they don't necessarily want to share their video ideas in case you get there first kind of thing. So it's not that people don't get on, and it's not that people are like kind of see each other as competition. They're generally just kind of tucked away doing their own thing. And I do miss that kind of networking, bouncing ideas around and being in a creative kind of mindset with other people. So yeah, I can totally get that, Doug. Yeah, speaking with other writers and stuff can get the juices flowing. RG says, England rugby player Will Greenwood would never wash his lucky socks. Some socks only lasted 1 game. John says, I feel less bad if my opponent's been unlucky if my dice were bad last time out. That's fair enough, mate. Do you swap dice between games? Is that how you balance out the karma? Jez was saying it was really good. Thank you, Jez. I appreciate that, mate. Clyde said, I need to get some Kings of War heroes painted or something. Or something, mate. Yes, definitely. And Doug saying, yeah, it's nice because the Black Site Studio writers are kind of a team, so we bounce ideas often. Yeah, I love that, mate. I think it's really important that I think like creative people need other creative people around them, because it's like, no disrespect to my wife, but she's very analytical. She works in sales. She works on spreadsheets. She works on numbers. She works on projections. She works on pounds, like in dollars. Like, she is very analytical, and I wouldn't suggest she's creative in the same way that maybe I am. And so it's very hard to kind of bounce ideas around and stuff like that. She's massively supportive, and she is absolutely 100% behind kind of helping me do the things that I love to do. But there's no creative bounce there, for example, in the same way that like I'm not helping her with spreadsheets. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's quite it's good to be surrounded by people who are like in that zone, if you like, in that creative mindset. Yellow Belly Tabletop says, as a small content creator, I find talking with my club mates is a great generator of ideas and topics for vids. Human interaction with other gamers is essential. 100%, mate. I can't tell you how much that's true. And I'm terrible at it. I don't go to the gaming clubs as much as I should. I don't mix with other folks as much as I should. And it's more just kind of like you get stuck in a rut of working and looking after kids and all that kind of stuff. It's so easy to fall out of the habit of like kind of getting out and socialising and stuff. So yes, don't ever get out of that habit, folks. John says, I've not changed my D6s for 5 years. They've been too good to me. I don't want to risk changing them. I like that, mate. You've probably rolled so many sixes that you've worn down the one side now, so they always just kind of roll to that one flat. I like that. Peter Kuma says, honest first week I skipped through most of the video, but that's probably because I care nothing for 3D printed stuff. Sorry, just how it is. There was only one thing about 3D printed stuff, mate, and actually if you watched it, you would know that it wasn't just 3D printed stuff. You could buy them from retail as well, to be fair. You could buy physical products. It's just that they sell the STL files because they design them, but they also sell them as physical products as well. But hey, everybody can, not everybody has to like what I do, and not every video is for everybody, so I understand that, mate. Regis says, when you start a sentence with no disrespect to my wife on a YouTube video, you should be very careful as to what comes out of your mouth next. She knows. We've had that conversation. Night Tom, thanks for coming in, mate. Clyde saying, I know that rut so well. And John says, it's why I'm not giving Conquest a go. I don't want to roll ones. It's a really weird, like the idea of rolling low. It kind of it played with my mind when I first tried it. And I couldn't get my head around why it was a good idea to kind of, it felt like one of those things where you when you design a game and you go, I know every other game says like 6s are good and 1s are bad, but I'm just going to turn it on its head. It feels like a gimmick a little bit because you have to stop and think every time. I'm sure there's probably some maths reason or a psychological reason why rolling 1 is good instead of rolling, like, so for example, when you roll a 1 and you go, oh no, actually that's good. It felt wrong in my head. Bobby Clark says, which small skirmish game has inspired you the most to want to play it? I need something to get my teeth into. I'm still a big fan of Warcry, mate, to be fair, from a really simplified rule set and like easy to pick up kind of thing. I would still go back, although to be fair, I've not played it in some time. Skirmish games. Let me think about it. I'm not just saying this because Doug's in the chat, but I haven't played Himetsu yet. I've read through the rules, and it inspired me enough that I wanted to play it. But I've not actually played the game yet, so I'm only talking from reading the rules. But that's pretty cool. What else would I say? I'm always a fan of Malifaux as well, but I think it's the world rather than the game itself. The game's good. It's not the simplest of games. I love the card mechanic. I find playing with a deck of cards, I find it's something a bit more unique. So I'm always a big fan of Malifaux as well. I love the models. I love the world. What else would I say? It depends. What was the question again? What inspired me the most to want to play it? I guess. Oh, you know what it is? That's a hard one because I chop and change my ideas so much. I love Marvel Crisis Protocol. I did play that quite a lot, and I played that like at tournaments and stuff like that as well. I played Malifaux. Malifaux is probably the game I've played for the longest period of time. But yeah, I must admit I'm starting to kind of branch out and look at other bits and pieces now. Like I probably wouldn't have even noticed like Blackside Studios as an example because we've been talking about them. Probably wouldn't have been on my radar probably 12 to 18 months ago kind of thing, because I was kind of stuck in the games that I always played in the games that I looked for, and it was seeing Himetsu that like kind of like attracted me to find out more about it. So I think my tastes are changing. I'm definitely becoming more casual in my approach and less competitive, I would suggest. But yeah, I'd probably say Malifaux purely because it's the game that I've probably stuck with for the longest. But rules wise, yeah, Warcry was something that like just kind of came out of nowhere for me. I wasn't expecting to like it, but I did. RG says, Andy, you managed to get me the last 105 minutes of painting tonight rather than the 60 minutes I can manage on my own. Nice one, mate. I'm glad that got you keep going. VG is off, mate. Take care, buddy. John saying, I'm extremely analytical as well. At work, they come to me every week telling me I'm in the top 5% of workers for quality or having 0 errors in the work I've done. Well done, mate. Well done. That is no small feat, especially in the industry you're in. RG says, I'm now bushed though. I'm bushed as well, mate, to be fair. I'm flagging today. I slept terribly last night. Me and my wife had a takeaway, an Indian takeaway last night, and I had a particularly spicy curry, and it did not sit nice on my stomach when I went to bed last night. So I didn't sleep the best, to be fair. So yeah, I'm bushed as well. Haxan saying Warcry remains one of his favourites. Yellow Belly Tabletop saying rolling low is useful if your core system involves rolling under base stats. It feels more intuitive that a higher stat is better. Yeah, I get if you're saying that your core system involves rolling under the base stat, but then surely that's just turning it on its head. If you say, well, we will roll above the base stat and we'll like 6 is a good kind of thing, like every other game kind of does. It felt like it was something that was there just to try and make it different for being different's sake. That was all. Peter says, very honest, I don't buy anything 3D printed either. I just don't feel it. I'm an old git. I loved all the other ones, just this one was not my cup of tea. Yep, fair enough, mate. No worries with that. Greg saying we were bummed Don't Look Back was delayed. Had a big Halloween game planned. Sometimes these things happen, mate, don't they? I did watch the update video from the guys there and completely understand. I mean, at least they're being open and transparent about it. These things happen, unfortunately. Doug saying, look at Twisted. Great skirmish game. I've heard that name as well. And the miniatures are very reminiscent of they evoke the same feeling as like Malifaux and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I'm sure I've heard good things about that. Johnson, I bought the Osprey Rules Zone Alpha, and I need to get those to read so I can try a game. Nice one. And Greg saying, love Twisted. Sad they can't support it. Oh, is that the case, mate? Is it? Oh, hadn't realised that. Greg saying, Relic Blade and Twisted got me back in the hobby. Yeah, Relic Blade, not something I've played, but it's certainly something I've heard good things about as well, to be fair. Nosef saying skirmish games, suggesting Frostgrave, Wild West Exodus, Mantic Armada. Yeah, wouldn't disagree with those either. And Gaslands. Mordecai is saying this is not a test, is a fantastic post-apocalyptic game with a robust campaign system. Really scratches my Fallout itch. Has somebody just picked up this is not a test, or am I imagining that recently? It feels in my head it was that like somebody's making stuff for it or something at the minute. Bobby says, was great meeting you on Friday, Andy. I'll look into Himetsu. Painting all day today has worn me out. Going to call it a night. Enjoyed the stream all. Yeah, take care, mate. lovely to meet you, mate. And honestly, I'll be in touch. I'll be picking your brains for painting advice very, very soon, mate. Yeah, Doug saying, yeah, we were producing it. Yeah, Greg saying BlackJack. I thought that's what I'd read. There was something in my head and I was thinking that was the case. I knew I'd seen somebody picking it up. That's good news, Doug. I've heard loads of good things about that as well, so good to see it's in good hands. Anyway, on that good news note, I think we'll call it a night, because like I said before, I am flagging because I was up at 4 o'clock this morning. I didn't sleep very well. So I will bid you all farewell this evening. Thank you everyone that's been in tonight. Thank you for the super chats as well. They also help support me, help keep the wheels turning, help put food on the table, as they say. If you do want to support longer term, you can always think about the Patreon as well. It's another way that you can kind of throw a couple of dollars into the cap and keep supporting me to be able to talk about games that are not necessarily the kind of the ones that you always see on every other channel, shall we say. And there'll be another This Week in Wargaming on Friday. I will see you all next Monday for the live stream. And if you're wanting a little bit of extra videos with me in this week, I've been making some stuff for Mantic. So there'll be 3 videos this week. There was one today, there's one tomorrow, and there's one on Wednesday, where I'm essentially hosting some interviews with different members of their team. So if you feel like you've not had enough of me already this week, you can go and check out their videos as well and give them a like and a thumbs up. So take care, folks. It's been an awesome night. Thanks very much for your time and your company, and I will see you all and bid you farewell. Bye, folks.